On to Matt Gaetz though, because since it's Casual Friday, we want to have a little bit of fun. Um, Even though, again, we're all having fun at this guy's expense because he's a total frat boy jerk. But there is a 17-year-old victim apparently that is involved in this, or a girl a woman now, but who was 17 at the very least at the time, I think in 2018, that these accusations are made. So I want to make that clear. But with that aside, Matt Gaetz is all of these stories coming out about his completely abhorrent behavior. So he's tied to this guy, Joel
Greenberg. Yeah.
That's his last name, who just
very dark figure, like tied to like 33 charges of like all sorts of things. And yeah, I mean, you can go on. I have a list here that we'll get to later.
Sure. So tied to this guy, Joel Greenberg, who is now being indicted himself for potentially sex trafficking a minor, as well as the list that Matt is going to pull up. Now Matt Gaetz is being alleged to show naked photos of women to his colleagues on the House floor, which, okay, that's really douchey, but it's not a crime. But the other thing that we're going to play in a second from the Daily Beast, apparently him and his buddy, Joel Greenberg, broke into or came in after hours to a facility that manufactures licenses and was creating off the books fake IDs. And Matt and I were talking about this before the show. What it seems to be, and I don't know if this is what happened, but connecting the dots, were they getting fake IDs for their underage girlfriends?
Well, I mean, the question is, so there's this text message to Greenberg saying, hey, did you come in over the weekend? Because this person came in and saw these IDs basically spread out over the desk. And these IDs are there to be destroyed safely and securely. So instead of being safely and secured by the state, this guy is spreading them out and allegedly doing some fake ID stuff in it. Now, what sort of position does that put any young woman who gets a fake ID from this operation, right? Like, I mean, ultimately, you don't have to really, like, I think the implications are pretty clear there. But also, this Joe Greenberg, is my mic, I don't know, okay enough for me to read this? So, yeah, like used state database to create fake IDs, allegedly stalking a political opponent, also defrauded tax collectors by resurrecting defunct companies to claim COVID relief payments, up to $400,000. You know, like you bribe an old employee, say, "Hey, this company still exists," right? And all of a sudden you get some COVID relief bill. Also, cryptocurrency scamming. Basically, like, and this is part. I'm trying to. This seems almost like there's bigger problems in Florida that this guy was able to get away with this, because basically charging the government to say, hey, we're going to buy these crypto mining things, they're going to do something with these IDs that we're supposed to get rid of securely. Instead, he just ended up selling those Bitcoin mining machines to other people and pocketing the funds on that. So that's going to be my money. And then also, let's see, there's one more detail with Bitcoin mining that I don't have right now, but I'll see if I can pull it up. Oh, yes. This is from the Sun Sentinel. In a slew of examples, authorities say Greenberg claimed he was going to use $200,000 for an investment in his office when he actually planned to use the money to buy cryptocurrency for himself. The scheme also involved a business Greenberg established, Government Blockchain Systems, LLC. The indictment states, among other allegations, is that Greenberg set up an Amazon account for the money which he used to sell cryptocurrency mining machines that he purchased with the funds from the tax collector's office. So, I mean, an insane run of just criminality that you wonder, like, what else are we not seeing, right?
Gaetz is BFF, just to clarify. But yeah, Manny, weigh in on all of that.
Yeah,
ridiculousness.
There seems to be a deeper level of scum that we we were not originally aware of. I mean, on the surface, we kind of all know Matt Gaetz, right? Like, we all know someone who would behave like Matt Gaetz if they were given the platform and the resources. And we've all definitely met. Oops, there is a siren going by. Hold on, sorry guys. New York City, guys. All right. And we all definitely know someone who is like seemingly legally obligated to tell you that they had sex with someone, right? Like Matt Gaetz is probably, I think he's like the personification of that Lonely Island song, I Just Had Sex, right?
Exactly.
But as Matt was just saying, this all seems to be connected to like a much more worrisome form of criminal activity that we're just going to have to like let this investigation play out to reveal. And that's been a part of my I've felt a bit conflicted, because if all this stuff is true, then yes, as you said at the top of the segment, there is a victim involved. But I do, on the other hand, feel some level of catharsis, right? That like Matt Gaetz, on an unforced error, is just confirming all of our suspicions about him.
Yeah, and the fake ID thing is what fascinates me too, and I know we're returning to that, but before the show I was just talking about how I used to, when I was 16 or 17, and I had my first drink, and I would be going to parties with my friends in high school. I used to have this fantasy of like, what if I could break into the DMV and make my own fake ID, and I wouldn't have to worry because it would scan. It would be so cool, as opposed to, I think I was using my friend's cousins, and
Right.
5'2" and I'm like 5'8". And she was blonde and blue eyed, and I have brown eyes. It's just like terrible. So it's just such a. And I used to just think about all like that would have, for me at that age, if there was a guy like Matt Gaetz, and I wasn't repulsed by him, which I would have been, that would have just put me in an incredibly vulnerable position. And it seems like we're the best. There's only two scenarios here. They were using the IDs for themselves or for other people who weren't underage, or they were getting fake IDs for young girls that they were paying to sleep with them with other things. And neither of those things are legal or good.
Yeah, that latter part is part of the, I think, I have to double check, but I think that's included in the legal definition of some forms of trafficking, right? Where you're procuring legal seeming documents for underage people. So
it seemed to be useful in trafficking.
Yeah.
Access to official document.
Yes. Yeah, it seems like as the days go, Matt Gaetz might be going to jail.
Yeah.
We have the voicemail that he left, if you just want to introduce this, Emma.
Yeah, so I guess somebody who was critiquing Matt Gaetz on Twitter, a woman, she received this voicemail from Matt Gaetz and his little sidekick, Greenberg here. She didn't welcome this kind of contact. She was a state legislature, Representative Anna Eskamani, and she was critiquing Matt Gaetz in 2019, and then they both left this voicemail for her, which is bizarre.
My dear Anna, this is your favorite tax collector. I'm up in the Panhandle with your favorite U.S. Congressman, Mr. Gaetz.
Hi, Anna.
And we were just chatting about you and talking about your lovely qualities. And
we think you're the future of the Democratic Party in Florida.
Well, see, I know you're the future of it, so there's no thinking involved. Anyway, if you get this and you feel like chatting, give me a shout back. Hope you're well. Hope you had a nice 4th. Later.
Can you imagine getting that unwarranted call from somebody not, even who in a friendly way and on a political level, but somebody who you've been criticizing, and then you get that voicemail?
Yeah, the answer to that question is no. I cannot imagine that. It seems like these two are like the worst version of like those like raunchy teen comedies, like a duo in one of those movies, except this time they're criminals.
Yeah, it's just super bad gone super worse.
Yeah. What did you think of, if you don't mind me asking, the kind of discourse on Twitter yesterday that if the only part of the allegations are true is that Matt Gaetz paid to have sex with someone, then we really shouldn't be talking about this?
Yeah, I wanted to get into that too, because I think that there is, at least in leftist circles, I mean, this is so insular, but hopefully this pretends for, or shows some promise for the broader conversation around sex work. I don't care if Matt Gaetz was having sex with women for money who were above age and it was a consensual situation. And there's a tendency, I think, to hypocrisy shame just based on his kind of puritanical politics and being of the Republican Party. But he doesn't even represent that part, but he will be a hypocrite and a spokesperson for that part. But I think the hypocrisy shaming should come second to the number one priority, which is normalizing a more humane discourse around sex work that doesn't make it so salacious. And what's your thoughts, Manny?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. It's like we should be able to, can we make fun of Matt Gaetz? Yes, absolutely. But if we consider ourselves on the left or even liberals, I don't think he should be in jail just for that aspect. But then on the other hand, I do feel like my version of leftism is beginning to exclude people who suck. So, that means at the end of the day that I am allowed to pay for sex, but Matt Gaetz is not allowed to pay for sex in my book of leftism. So, I'll have to get back to you when I figure that rule book out. But
yeah, exactly. I mean, let's turn away from Matt Gaetz for a second.
Can I just want to bring up one more note, because you talk about with that voicemail we just played where Gaetz and Greenberg said, we think you're the future of the Democratic Party. You mentioned this, but this is the tweet that got Greenberg in hot water locally. And I just want to share this to get an idea of what kind of guy this guy is. So this was in 2018. And Joe Greenberg tweets out, very simple question, name just one society in the developed world that has benefited in any way from the introduction of more Muslims, just one, asking for a friend. And so that representative that they called reached out to him saying, hey, here's some actual people you should reach out to, because clearly you don't have deep roots in the Muslim community that you could say something like that. And that's how she was repaid, by basically getting those kinds of messages.
Awesome. Yeah. So just proving the point that he, a true red-blooded non-Muslim American, is contributing to society.
The one last thing about Greenberg, in that New York Times piece, there was a quote that said, one of the women who had sex with both men also agreed to have sex with an unidentified associate of theirs in Florida Republican politics, according to a person familiar with the arrangement. And I'm dying to know who that person is. Like, that guy is sweating bullets right now. I don't know, if you have any guesses, but it'd be interesting to see another medium to big name caught up in this whole thing.
Oh, 100%. I mean, my mind first goes to Marco Rubio, but he's too much of a goody two shoes. I just can't really see.
Yeah, that would be awesome, but
it is, we mentioned this when the story broke, and again, we'll get off Matt Gaetz soon. But the Florida as a haven for underage sex trafficking is becoming a theme, as seen throughout the Jeffrey Epstein files. It's just, there's so much that goes on down there, so much nefarious and criminal activity based on I think a number of factors, but I just find that through line to be a little bit fascinating about what we're seeing down in Florida.